Okay, we are building audience. We are live, and I'm going to switch perspective on this.
Let's see if I get alerted.
You are alerted. Okay, let's see if I can tag people on here. Okay. And I'm not going to hit finish, and we are live. And the radio show will start shortly. This is we have to watch our mouth because this is not the wired in thing. This is the
Live thing.
This is the studio thing. So we start Real Estate Talk live in 2 minutes.
Looking forward.
Okay. Make sure I have everything here. I think I have a bag over there. I'm going to go get it. Oh, all the links just became hot links on my notey thing. Good stuff. All right. Okay, I hope you guys are warmed up. I would remind you not to pop your peas. Do not pop your peas because this is radio. Is your jaw loose?
We're good.
Loose.
I'm loose. 1 minute and counting. 1 minute and counting.
Red leather, yellow This is how we
Pre-game.
Pre-game. I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. I can talk good. I talk good. I English well. 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 I don't curse. Oh, don't think of the color blue. Don't think of profanities. You brought bar charts. This is going to be really professional.
We got crazy stuff on this.
So we're coming up on this. Oh boy.
Here we go.
Oh boy.
20 seconds. Wait.
20 seconds.
20 seconds.
I guess we'll try to tie it in as much as we can to real estate.
We will. I think we could do it on the fly.
Yes.
Real Estate Talk is provided for general information only and should not be treated as a substitute for professional advice. Please consult your trusted financial advisor, real estate professional, or attorney before making any real estate or financial decisions. Please remember, when following advice, your results may vary, and all information covered here is not intended to cover all aspects of the subject material, but rather a sample of issues the hosts and guests consider important. And now, Real Estate Talk with your host, Victoria Rivadeneira. Each week, Victoria gathers some of the best minds in the business to provide both professionals and non-professionals with the inside tips and tools to make smarter deals. Whether you're a buyer or seller, Real Estate Talk will give you the competitive advantage you need. And now, here's Victoria.
This is decidedly not Victoria Rivadeneira. This is J. Philip Ferranda stepping in or sitting in for Victoria here on Real Estate Talk Live, streaming from New York's WOR iHeart Studios. We are going to be talking today with Eric Sturken, co-founder of Better Qualified, and we'll be discussing the real estate aspect of identity theft and cybercrime, along with our favorite attorney, Lior Aldad, with his legal perspective. And good afternoon to you both.
Hello there.
Good afternoon, Phil.
All right, so I want to draw a scenario, and we say scenario instead of scenario because we want to sound sophisticated. The scenario is this. You are about to close on your dream home. You have been informed by your attorney to wire them the 10% of your purchase price, down payment for $40,000, $50,000. You have jumped through all the hoops for your mortgage company. Your credit is wonderful. And then you go to your bank to get the money and the funds, and you're told that you're overdrawn by $15,000. The bank also sends you a message, hey, we just ran your credit, and why did you buy a car in Orange County, California yesterday? Eric, what just happened to me?
That's a very simple identity theft.
Aha.
Very simple.
Am I going to be closing on my house the next day?
Probably not.
Probably
Unless you
not.
have a friend at the bank that can overlook some things. No, you're not.
Okay. All right. So how do we have this not happen to you?
Well, as Phil introed, I'm the co-founder of the company for now 11 years, and in 11 years it's happened to me, it's happened to the company, it just happened to us over the weekend, my own credit card. So to have it not happen to you, it's almost, I'd say, impossible for it not to happen with all the information that's out there. I always say to everybody, I think, most of the information of everybody in the United States has been breached. It's just a matter of time before they use it.
All right, so we've seen high-profile hackings. We've seen Amazon. We've seen Yahoo. In the real estate industry, Dotloop was just told that there had been a data breach with thousands of email addresses. We could go on, right?
Yep.
The best technology web companies who thrive on their reputation as being secure have security breaches. I get an email from somebody I think is my friend. It says, hey, I need you to read this document. It's 2 a.m. I'm half asleep. Click on it. It says, oh, you got to log in to read the document. And boom, I've been phished, right?
Yep, that's how they do it. They're going to make it look as similar to the company's website or somebody that you do business with, because a lot of the stuff that emails of companies have been breached, so they know where you shop. So they might send you a link from Amazon is an easy one, but the one that just happened that affected how many people now? 200,000 or 300,000 computers over the weekend
not
where
good.
They lock it.
Not
and
good.
this is all cyber crime. It's identity theft happens thereafter, but the cyber crime part is a simple email that they'll send out that you think is from the real company that you shop at. You click it, and from that point on, your computer, can be breached. So now they're taking information, maybe your personal information, all your passwords and everything else within your computer, or they're going to lock it down like they did over the weekend. And that was 200,000 or 300,000 different computers that were locked down, and they're charging $300 in bitcoins to give you your information.
The ransomware.
The
So
ransomware.
welcome to hell.
Yep.
Leor, from the legal perspective, how long does it take to dig out of a hole like this?
Well, it all depends on the severity. The severity and how much information you were able to get and what they have done in terms of affecting your system. From what I've heard, the best thing to do is right away report this to the authorities and report it to people like yourself, report it to your credit card companies, be very proactive in whatever you do. I think I was told to shut down the computer and disconnect it from the network as being critical, as a first form of mechanism of action. But this is becoming more and more popular. This is becoming more of a threat. This is affecting our usual lifestyle, and people should definitely be very leery in who they transact with, how they purchase items on the internet. I'm not saying not to, but be cautious, or authenticate the data and the vendors that you deal with, and try to be as cautious as you can to the best you can. My opinion is that we should have cyber police, similar to that we have the police department in every county and in every state. We should have, at this junction in our society, we should have cyber police. We should have people department that deals with policing involved.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is a headache. This is not good. This is, wreaks havoc on people's lives. It takes probably weeks and months. The transaction is not only adjourned; it's probably canceled. It takes a long time to find the culprits. Hopefully, there is some sort of insurance that's in place. But an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and that's really where Better Qualified would come in, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yep. So you guys do more than fix credit. You guys preserve credit.
Yep. Well, again, we build, we fix, and we monitor. So we're talking about being proactive is probably one of the most important things you have to do. What does proactive mean? You have to be monitored.
You got to lock your door.
You got to somewhat lock your door. The only way you can truly lock your door is to do a security freeze, which I always suggest to somebody that's not going through a transaction where they need type of financing, whether it's a car, credit card, or a student loan, or they're buying a house. Freeze your identity. At that point, nobody can use your social security number, your name, and your address together. It's just frozen. They'll give you a PIN, You know, the bureaus and the three bureaus will give you a different PIN or the same PIN, and then you'll be able to access when you need credit. You have to have a PIN, which is a smart way to do it. I was thinking the other night, why do not credit cards? Because the biggest thing with credit cards now and identity theft is once they get your information, they're going to make credit cards, right? In the past, they made the physical credit card. You went to the store. There was no chip. The EMV chip, which is in it now, will stop it from being mass-produced and keep the liability down. And you know, there's a bunch of different things it does. The problem with it is most credit card abuse happens online. So while the credit card abuse on the actual outside, you know, not online, has decreased, online's increased 40% over the last years. I mean, the numbers are just, they're mind-blowing. And if you really understand how proactive you really should be, if you haven't yet, whether it's our service or one of the other ones you see on TV, they're all very similar. They're all, you know, they're doing a monitoring service that if anybody uses either your tax ID or your Social Security number, you're going to get an alert. If someone's looking for anything in financing, if anybody does anything to get a car, as Phil said before, but anything in looking for money, you're going to get an alert, and immediately then you can deny it, so it's not going to go through. What happened to me, and I suggest everybody does this also, above and beyond being monitored, which again, you know, if anybody opens new things, you're going to get an alert. It's also a very proactive way to, if you have issues with you're going late on something. Over the past last summer, I said to everybody, I'm a 5-time family client of my own company. My wife just, you know.
You're more than a hair club.
Yeah, I'm 5 times. And the last one was just because of this, you know, I'll go into that. But the last summer, she didn't pay a credit card or just forgot. Travels a lot, didn't pay it. And I got an alert Saturday morning, 6:31, won't forget, said you went 31 days late on your Lord & Taylor card. Dropped my credit score, 98 points.
Wow.
I then tried to be as proactive as I could. I called the company, went back and forth. They would not do anything for me. So then, you know, better qualified, I hired them to do what we do, and things worked out. But the only way
give you a discount?
They were tough.
A little wholesale, though?
They were tough. It wasn't wholesale.
Yeah.
But you know, the hard part, well, not the hard part, the good part, I was monitored. If I wasn't, I would have never known about any of that. Bill would have got paid, right? I wouldn't have known I was late until I went for some other financing if I wasn't monitored. So then I go to get financing, right, and I pull my credit's down 98 points because the late was there.
So this is a global thing. So we got 300 million people in the United States. We got 300 million Social Security numbers, dates of birth, everything like that.
Last year alone on identity theft, you're talking 15.4 million consumers were breached for a total of $15.3 billion taken from them.
And this isn't just people shopping online. This is anybody with a Social Security number is in danger. So in other words, if you're 11 years old, your identity can be stolen.
Yep.
So if somebody says on Facebook, hey, happy birthday to my kid, there's somebody out there, if that's a public post, there's somebody out there that will triangulate and start to build a dossier of people whose lives are an open book through no fault of their own, 11-year-old kid, right?
Yep.
And they start with a date of birth, and they start with other things, and they start to build almost like from the Shawshank Redemption, kind of a fictitious person with that person's information.
100%. That's true name identity theft. That's when someone does everything. License, right? Maybe even citizenship, bunch of stuff. I mean, the attorneys could talk a little bit more about some of that, but that's what happens.
What I've seen lately is that people have, or they pay many of their bills online with automatic payments, automatic debits. That information sometimes is given to the wrong people in the wrong hands, and the thieves, we call them, right?
Yeah.
They tack on and start deducting small amounts. They start with a $10
Yep.
deduction.
Sometimes $1.
Right. Sometimes $1 even, just to see who's monitoring the online automatic payments from the account, and then they increase it. People don't always follow up and check online to see what has been deducted because they think, oh, not a problem. I think that you should check your online accounting, online banking on a regular basis, if not every day, every other day.
Well, to add to that, how we just got breached, and this was a company card. Paul, my partner, who's on the show a lot more than
I've
me.
heard of him.
You've heard of him. Sent me a text because he gets the alerts on it for the corporate card for whatever reason. Did you go to Home Depot and spend $2,500? This was Saturday. And I said, nah, I'm not buying to shed this, or a snowblower.
Are you kidding? Have you ever seen my house? Do I look like I spent $2,500 at Home Depot?
I couldn't. I don't build. And then the next day, Walmart for $5,200.
That's pretty hard to do. I mean, you'd need a school
All
bus.
all online. So again, that's how they're doing it. Without the EMV, they can still try to transact. So
And debit cards also.
yeah, debit cards for sure.
Same-
But
same
here's
concept.
then my point was what you have to do with your own cards is set the limit alerts, because you can do it by text, you can do it by email. If you're not using that, listeners, do that for yourself. Log into your account if it's online and set up the alert for anything over $50, anything over $100. You know, depending on your transactions. I don't mind getting a text telling me I just used my card. It actually, you know, okay.
So walk me through this. This is simple enough. I go to real life example. We had to wire real estate brokers. I had to wire over $5,000 to a vendor for something. We set up the wire, sent it in. Someone in my office who's a signatory on the account arranged it. Didn't go through. People like, you know, could you send it to them? So we go in, and it was flagged for an anti-fraud measure, which we greatly appreciate. So there are fail-safes in here that are built in. But what you're saying is, before we would even do this, go to the bank and say, "Hi, I would like to be told. Ping me, text me."
It doesn't even. You don't even need to go to the bank. You just do it on your phone. You can set the alerts. Just
So
log
I go to my Chase app on my phone and
app.
say, "Give me, let me know
Oh.
when I'm."
Depending on your spending level, I have it on Chase and we have it on Bank of America. I don't know about everybody else's banking world, but I'm sure the rest of them are pretty good.
I would imagine that.
But Chase and B of A, you could set the limit. One's 50. I think we have it 50. So I know every transaction over 50, I get a text message. Okay, next, and I'll do 100 transactions a day. You know, it's
Right.
Leor, wasn't there a thing that is still going on where people, it's some sort of scam where they try and get the attorneys to wire the money to the wrong person?
Right. So the way we transact business lately, in lieu of sending a check of the 10% deposit to the other lawyer, if we are the buyer's attorneys, the seller's lawyer is usually the escrow agent holding the money and the 10% deposit, subject to the terms of the contract. If it's subject to board approval, if it's subject to mortgage contingency, whatever it is. And lately, the seller's lawyers prefer to receive the 10% deposit in the form of a wire. The scam that's happening lately is that instead of sending the wire instructions from the lawyer, the scam artists are tap into the attorneys, the buyer's attorneys hypothetically. They tap into his email, and from his email, fictitiously, they send wire instructions to the client to wire the funds to them. Client thinks that the wire is coming from the lawyer, proceed and wire the funds, except that the funds are going to the wrong account.
Yowza.
Correct. And the attorney's malpractice does not cover insurance, does not cover cybercrime. So the attorneys are on the hook. And I had a friend of mine who just got bombed for $2 million.
With an M?
Yes, with an M, $2 million wire that the attorney asked the client to send in order to consummate the transaction. And I guess someone knew about some way. They had the purchaser sent the wire, the $2 million, to the wrong account.
Okay then. So if that can happen to an attorney with an escrow account and security and caution involved, then if you're a regular guy walking down the street trying to buy a house, then you need to have your stuff locked down. So there are, beyond just making sure your credit score doesn't have any mistakes on it and everything like that, we now have the onus on the regular consumer these days is far greater because of the security issues that exist.
I would strongly suggest anytime you wire funds relating to real estate transactions, pick up the phone and call the lawyer. Call beforehand to confirm that the wire information is accurate and received, and call afterwards and confirm and ask for a receipt like I do. What I do is every time I get a wire from a client, we immediately send a receipt with a copy of the wire received, so everybody's on the same page and the client feels comfortable that the funds are secured.
Okay. So of the 15 million people, Eric, that had their security breached last year, is there any data on what the average damages were, or what sort of typical things occur? I mean, is it?
Yeah, for sure. Just on a dollar amount, I mean, if someone has a calculator, they can do it. But on 15.4 million by 15.3 billion, so that would be an average of what they lost. But here's what usually happens, and these are pretty cool stats. When somebody is breached, 49% of the time, it's government documents or benefits, or some sort of fraud with taxes. It's a pretty crazy number. Credit card, 15.8%. Phone, utility, which you see a lot, cell phones, and also utility. You get a lot of, those collections that come through and somebody else took your identity and end up getting, cable, or it's actually harder now to do it back in the day, but, they're getting smarter.
Okay, well, $1 billion is 1,000 million, so it's that translates to about the regular damage being about $1,000.
Yep. Yeah, I would say that's about right. I mean, if I would have got hit and not stopped it, that was $7,000 right there. A lot of this stuff, though, is covered by the credit card, so it's not like it's, some of the money, most of the money is coming back, whether it's, through a bank account, whether it's credit card. A lot of this damage, I'm sure, I've got to assume the consumer doesn't get whacked with that. That's the banking. A lot of times $50, I think, is what you're liable for, at least on my cards. I don't know.
So I would imagine that this is also affecting the insurance industry in a big way also, because of the liability that didn't exist 20 years ago, really.
Yep. And the big one now is the cybercrime, as you were saying, that attorney that wired $2 million. There are policies, and that's a very big market that's now coming because of this ransom, because just the involvement in any of that, they can go after everybody involved within, from on the business side, from who sent the original email, there's a bunch of stuff.
And you can't just go out and, find the person. They might be in like Malaysia that did this. So they might be in the Pacific Rim. They might be in Europe.
Yep.
That's why the cyber police, I think, in my opinion, should be implemented internationally and as soon as possible. And it should have a whole crew who monitor and pick up and try to catch these individuals who think that they're so smart. And I think now, where in the old days you used to walk in and be robbed, now you're being robbed via the internet.
Okay, so we want to thank everybody for listening to us on Real Estate Talk Radio. We are live streaming on Facebook.com/Victoria Riva every Wednesday, noon to 1. And if you're watching on the live stream, give us a ping, like us, comment, ask a question. Real Estate Talk is heard on Sunday mornings on New York's AM 710 WOR, and we have several podcasts for your convenience on our website at retalkradio.com. We will be back after these short words.
Tom Marinero, the president of Residential Home Funding, a top East Coast mortgage company.
Okay, so
now is the time to buy a home before interest rates go up. Lock in with a low rate today, or turn your current home into an asset by cashing in on its equity.
Okay.
Why rent when you can own? Why not get cash out of your home now? So call me right now at 1-800-633-LEND. And as a bonus, if you call me right now, I will waive all of my lender fees. That's right, zero lender fees saving you thousands of dollars. This offer is for purchasing or refinancing a home. Call me and learn more at 1-800-633-LEND. Residential Funding is part of the New York, New Jersey Departments of Banking and Insurance.
Has to be a soft pull.
36152.
I know these
Once
things.
again,
All right, so we're going to be very careful with that. All right,
So go
so,
back to our conversation.
but what else can we talk about?
This is Paul Oster.
You got more? There's Paulie.
So we
We have
touched
more
on the
statistics on
statistics a
the
little bit.
more cybercrime stuff.
So-
Some pretty crazy
Thousands of
statistics.
people over the past 10 years.
We can always
I'm the
talk about
credit
best
expert for Fox
practices.
Business News, and all the major networks.
We can talk about
I'm a
some of the more
certified
common
FICO
scams
pro
that we got to be
that
careful
uses
about.
the consumer laws
Okay.
to help delete
Yep.
negative
Anything else come to
information
mind?
off of credit reports.
State
We have a
identity
debt
theft by state's
elimination
pretty cool.
program that
State.
focuses on the laws surrounding
Stats.
collections, judgments, and charge-offs.
Similar
You
name
could be
title
entitled
insurance.
up to
If
$1,000
you're buying
for
and they're running
violation.
a
Call now
updated
for your free
search
credit
and somebody,
consultation.
there are mechanisms, the title insurance company will accept
That
an
number again,
affidavit that it's not you, so long as it's not
888-533-8138, or visit us
on the
on the
nose.
web at
And on the nose means
betterqualified.com.
that you're
Every
social,
loan has a
etc.
story of
All right,
family
I'm going
and
to check our thingy.
My name is Jacqueline
And make
Sandra,
sure that
mortgage loan
we're
originator
good here.
39117, specializing in first-time homebuyer financing.
Somebody
and an
was
array
kind
of
enough
mortgage products.
to
We recognize the importance of competitive
give us a
rates
nice
and
compliment.
custom
Thank you,
tailored
Duncan.
mortgage loan to suit your needs.
we're
United
good there.
Mortgage Bankers Ltd celebrates over 37 years of mortgage banking success.
All right.
Allow us to help you achieve your dream.
We are live.
By reaching out to me today at 631.
The weird thing is that, we don't have really great Wi-Fi here in the studio, so that's got to be, that's our thing.
10 seconds.
10 seconds, okay.
730 was an equal housing lender and a licensed mortgage banker located at 3601 Hempstead Turnpike, Suite 300, Levittown, New York, 11756, New York State Department of Financial Services.
For more real estate talk, download our free podcast at retalkradio.com. Now back to Victoria Rivadeneira.
Hello, this is not Victoria Rivadeneira. This is J. Philip Ferranda sitting in for her. We're here at the WR iHeartRadio Studios, AM 710. You can also hear the live podcast on retalkradio.com. And Lior, our attorney at large here in this discussion. You mentioned during the break the cybercrime unit and the cybercrime law enforcement needs to be expanded. Is that your main concern here? Do we need to do more? I mean, we need to do more on the prevention side, but once these bad people do this sort of thing, and they're always coming up with, it's almost like a virus mutating with these criminals, what more can the authorities do?
So I think that new laws can be implemented, and the laws should be implemented obviously on a national level and international level, because the cyber crimes sometimes come from outside U.S. soil. And also, I think that the individuals should be prosecuted and punished to the extreme, because again, they are not afraid, and that is the key here. They think that they are above all, and they think that if they lock your computer with all your personal data and information, then they hijacked you and you are under their mercy. So backing up your computer, backing up your information on a regular basis, and preventive measures is worth anything you can do.
Okay. All right. So, Eric, we were talking about this. Some of the stats by state would be surprising. So, who's the safest out there? What state is kind of flying under the radar, and who's really the most exposed?
Well, the number one, the one that most exposed, we'll start there, is California. Obviously, 14% of all cyber crime happens in California.
Wow.
14% in population, probably its density, but
wow.
Whatever. Florida's number 2, Texas, and then comes good old New York.
Aha.
At 6.3%, and then Illinois, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Jersey, where I'm from, is 3%. So whatever, we're in the top 10, which I'm not proud of. But Washington and then Ohio. So back to what we just talked about with the computer. Just to add, we're talking about prevention and being proactive. The way the hackers just got in on the cybercrime was that people weren't updating their patches, right? And there's many times I walk in the office, and unless you have it set on automatic, I check computers, just to make sure everything's running right. Sometimes, not that I'm a super tech, but I'd like to see if someone's updated. If you haven't done your updates for just simple Microsoft stuff, they're putting the patches out there so this stuff doesn't happen. So pay attention to your own, computer at home. You have your work computer, but people still, need to do the updates at home and not let that little icon sit there and just avoid it. And same thing with your phone. There's many times I pick up a cell phone from one of the work phones, and I can see there hasn't been an update in 6 months.
Okay, so let's talk about the person who is buying a house, selling their house. They have high-speed internet coming into their place. They have probably a PC in their house. They have a network in the house. What sort of precautions should a homeowner take?
Well, if they're going to go wireless, which most are doing now, have to. I don't know if they let you do it without a password anymore, but I know back in the day you didn't need a password and nobody used a password.
You want to know something funny? When I was first out there working with people on my laptop, I was a high-tech guy, I would steal a neighbor's Wi-Fi.
Yep.
Because it was just so easy.
Yep.
If they in an apartment, can't do it out in the country.
Yep.
But now everything's password protected.
Everything's password, most of them, right? But here's the issue with the Wi-Fi. We can talk about being in the house, but you have your own wireless router and you have the password, so you're okay. There's certain different routers now that will give you alerts if somebody else is trying to. I use Lumina, which is something that's spread across the house for good reception, but it also has a little added advantage. If anybody, like when friends come over and ask me for the password for the wireless because they want the wire, I get an alert that this cell phone or this device just tried to log on, which I kind of like.
There's also guest networks now too.
Yes, there are in bigger companies, and in I think if you go to coffee shops have like Starbucks, they have guest.
No, I even have at my house new Verizon router, because we had it for 7 years. Hey, can we get a new router?
Yep.
They sent us a new router.
So you should be very careful if you are on a guest. If you're outside, for example, right, and you're using what is called a public.
Oh yeah, that's public's a whole different planet.
That's
so if you are using a public, and I would not do banking transactions or important transactions when you are not in a secured.
No, you just watch kitten videos. Don't do anything serious.
If that's what you're doing, you're good. But a lot of people will do banking, and they'll do it from an airport or where they're traveling from. They'll use a wireless.
But we even have a guest network at our house. At our house, we have a guest network. It's called Pick Up Your Socks. So,
I got you.
It's a long story. You're welcome, Melissa.
It's nice to say it, right?
Yes.
Hey,
pick up your socks, or is it I'm not your maid? One of those. One of the ones for my kids is pick up your socks, and the other one is I'm not your maid. It doesn't matter. But that is, there's 3 networks you get on there. You get a 2.4, or 5 something, and then there's a guest network. But do go on. So you password protect your stuff.
Yeah, that's in your house, right? You're not going to leave your wireless router open. So do that. Set up a guest network if you want. That's also awesome. But if you're in public, don't use wireless if you're going onto a public network and do anything critical. You want to look at videos, you want to do stuff on YouTube, that's all fine, because what happens is they're not going to get into your phone and get your information, but if there's any transmission of data, that's when they grab it. So they're not
exactly.
They're
so
not
the guy next to you can be stealing your information
100%.
while you are so-called looking up your online banking or something.
Yep.
The 21st century pickpocket.
That's it.
Exactly.
Same thing with credit cards too. They can scan it, get that. That's most of the time when it happens. I mean, I don't use my corporate card that much for things, and they got my card, and it has an EMV chip in it. It's a brand new card. How did they get that? Well, it was probably when I went maybe for lunch, maybe for dinner, and somebody at the place, and most of the stuff's done inside.
You buying
crazy.
after, by the way?
Sure.
Okay.
We're good.
You paying cash?
No, I got another credit card.
Okay.
I hope. Hopefully that one didn't get locked down either.
Okay, so the other thing that we talked about is monitoring your credit, doing a credit report check from time to time. It's worth the money to pay these. Who do we have? We have Equifax, we have Experian, and we have TransUnion, right? And all of them will, you throw them some couple bucks. And
yeah, you can do it again if you're going to do it online. You get one credit report per year from the government. Annualcreditreport.com. It doesn't give you a score, but it gives you at least everything that's on your credit history, right? So you'll see trade lines that don't exist, they're not you. You got issues. If everything looks kosher, you're good. If you want to get a score, it's $10 per bureau from the same annualcreditreport.com, and that's your own. You're pulling it yourself.
But there's more aggressive monitoring. There's closer monitoring.
I'm just talking about the actual report to see if if there's anything on there that isn't you, right? So now that you got that, you got your score. That's not going to hurt your credit score.
Okay.
That inquiry is yourself. So you get one of those a year from the government, right? So that doesn't affect you. As Phil and I have had a similar discussion last summer, a soft and a hard pull. So a soft pull is anybody that's again doing it to themselves, funnily enough, but that doesn't hurt their credit score.
Right.
A hard pull is when you're looking for financing.
All right.
And that typically is a bank or a car dealer or anybody that's going to lend you, and that is a hard pull. That will hurt your credit score somewhere between 1 and say 3 points.
So a soft inquiry is when you're doing your own consumer-driven monitoring. You're checking your own credit. A hard inquiry is when a merchant or a vendor is evaluating your credit qualifications for a prospective purchase.
Correct.
Okay.
And I mean, you have also insurance pulls are soft.
Okay.
Right? You're not looking to get money from them.
All right.
And
So an insurance company will check your credit.
Score. Yeah, for sure. Tied almost as your credit score compared to your credit your driving record. They're going more by credit scores now in some states. It's
Why
crazy.
is that, though? Why would an insurance company care about your credit score?
Again, what they think is if you have a poor credit score and you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to take care of your car, you're not going to take care of your day-to-day while you're driving the car, and you're a higher risk.
So in the era of big data, someone has figured out an algorithm to draw correlations between causative behavior of risk and the expedience with which one pays their bills.
100%. And it's getting, with all big data, it's getting crazier and crazier and crazier. They're starting in China. They use your social media presence and what you're doing socially on that. Your friends, who you're friends with, and if it's shady people, they might not give you money.
What's really scary is that someday we may be evaluated for our insurance rates based on our clout score. That's just you like that. Okay.
Let me ask you: if you find something that is not yours on the report, what actions can you or should you take?
Well, as I say to everybody, if it's really not you,
if it's not you,
truthfully not you, the
right.
easiest way to do it is to go through that annual credit report and dispute it.
Okay.
Right? And you're going to say, this is not me.
And how long do you think, in your experience, would it take for somebody to have that's judgment against a person of similar name that's not you, or a judgment against the spouse that you're no longer together anymore? For example, you're divorced, and the records show that she has a judgment against her, or he has a judgment against him, whichever way, and it should not affect you, but it has.
That answer is hard to answer, because it could be 30 days, which by law they have the time to respond in 30 days. Like, they could clear it up. But there's stories and stories of years. There's been people that have been claimed dead, that they tried to revive their own credit, and it's taken 2 years.
Right. So we see, as real estate attorneys, we see that in the title report when somebody tries to buy a house, for example, and they run a search, and it shows that there's a judgment against people with common and similar names, like John Smith, for example, or Levy, or whatever, or whichever other names.
Thank God, by the way, your name is Lior Aldad, and I am J. Philip Ferranda. We will never have that problem.
I concur. Yeah, I concur with your opinion.
Not so much.
Yeah.
but some people do have a problem, and
thanks, Mom.
The way it's solved is that an affidavit of non-similar name is the way the title company will accept. However, sometimes the judgments are on the head, as they call it, which means that it is your social, or it is your address, and you'll have to take care of it, even though you may have not known that you have a judgment against you from a particular creditor or the IRS or whatever it may be. So,
yeah. I mean, that's something we do, every day. It's really validation that, a lot of this stuff is either a default judgment or some of the collections, and a lot of stuff is changing July 1st for the favor of the consumer, which is kind of awesome.
What are the changes coming?
Changes coming up are to PII, which is personal identification information. So you have to have, in the past, only 3 identifying tools. So your name, your address, your date of birth. That was it for collection to be put on your credit report. Crazy, right? You don't need the SOCH. Now you got to add the SOCH.
Okay.
So anything.
And SOCH is like lingo talk for Social Security number.
Sorry. Ooh,
all right.
Yeah.
Just trying to help the people out there in the radio land.
So now that they added that additional, now you went from 3 to 4, which is a big, added way that things just can't be added. And as of July 1st, the bureaus are going to take this information, if they don't have all 4, and it supposedly fall off your credit report, from tax liens to regular liens to collections to not charge-offs, but collections. They estimate 12 million people will have such issues, and approximately, and I don't know how they get the number, approximately 6 million will fall right off. So if you're looking or have issues in tax lien, or tax liens, or any of these, definitely re-pull your credit, I'd say, at the end of July to see if this stuff came off, and if it didn't, immediately go after it, because now who knows if they'll change it, but for now that's what they're saying they're going to do.
Okay, so with pulling your own credit, we're talking about you can do it for free once a year, free credit report, blah blah blah.
Yep.
But there are more aggressive programs. Would you recommend that as a best practice?
Absolutely.
To enroll in these things for $15-20 a month?
Yep. Well, what happens is the annual credit report is just to get a report. They're not going to monitor, right? So now you get your report, and there's nothing bad there. Everything on there is legit. It's all you. Everything's good. My scenario, I was monitored. I found that the day it happened and corrected it within less than 30 days.
And it'll tell you when your credit there's been an inquiry on your credit, and if there's been an addition or a trade line has been affected on your credit.
Correct.
Or created.
Yep.
Okay.
Everything. It'll change. I mean, a lot of the monitoring, the good ones, and again, you don't have to pay $20. Some of them are between $9 and $13 is most of them.
Okay.
When you sign up, you get a credit report, so you don't need to go to annual credit report if you intend to get monitored. If you just want to get a report and see it and say, oh, I'm good, and then decide if you want to get monitored. But when you sign up for monitoring, you're going to get a report with it, right? So you get the report and you're monitored, entered. Say it's $10 a month, just on average. And then anything that happens to your credit report, to your SOCH, right? Your social security number, right? Wink, wink.
Lingo.
You're going to get an alert if your balance. You can have it set to your balance changes. You can have it set to do whatever you want. There's so many bells and whistles on most every product has the same thing. That's why it's it doesn't really matter who you choose. I think I like mine, but it is what it is. But again, you can have alerts with balances. So
What other best practices are there? So we have the credit monitoring to whatever degree people choose to do it. We protect our home Wi-Fi networks with passwords.
Yep. If you're shopping online, a big one that I tell people is if you're going to shop online, which everybody does now, right? I think agree with us. Use one credit card and don't have a big balance. I mean, not a big balance, but a big limit. Keep it $2,500, $2,000, so you know they're not going to. And again, with credit cards, it's a little different than debit cards. Don't use debit cards online because that's your money, and it's going to take longer for you to get it back sometimes. Credit card, I have to pay my bill at the end of the month, so I don't care. By that time, they're going to correct it.
Right.
If you are looking to buy a real estate, you can run a judgment and lien search against your name. Your attorney will probably be able to do it at no charge, and you'll get a complete report, which is not a credit report, but you get any judgment and liens, so at least you know in advance. So if you're concerned or have reason to be concerned, and you just want to run a search before you enter into the contract, before you enter into the transactions, your real estate attorney can run a search for you and give you the data of where you are.
So this is important. So the casual listener say, well, you guys have been talking 90% of the time about identity theft, cybercrime, and everything like that. And how does this relate to, this is a real estate show, but there's so much here that relates back to real estate. First of all, we need credit, and we need to make sure that our banking funds are secure. So those are two huge things: credit, secure funds. Now you're bringing in a third component, which is judgment and lien search against our very identities to make sure that there isn't something else. So a judgment and a lien search, there could be a lien on me, right? There could be a lien on my property. There could be a judgment on me, or a judgment on, it could be secured by real property or not.
Again, this goes back to, you're now purchasing this house, or you have a plan to purchase a house, you finally want to do it, or even rent, you're at a school and you want to rent. You need to know what's on your credit report. You need to be monitored. There's no reason not to be. If you could tell me one, I'd say, okay, that makes sense, but there isn't. So a lien and judgment and all that search, it's all on your credit history. So even if you pull the annual credit report from the government, do it once a year, you'll see what's on your credit report. They list all the judgments, the collections, everything's negative.
It could be a situation where you've been sued and you did not receive the necessary process, and a default judgment came against you, and you didn't even know about it.
Well, we don't like that. We don't like default judgments. Okay, so we are live streaming from New York's WR iHeart Radio Studios with Eric Sturken of Better Qualified and our favorite attorney, Lior Aldad. We will be back on Real Estate Talk Radio in just a moment.
Story, a family, and a dream that fuels it. My name is Jacqueline Sendra, mortgage loan
Okay, so I think we can do some more on best practices, I suppose. We credit report check, I think we beat that to hell. State stats, could we do any more statistics that we should be mindful of?
Years of mortgage banking success. Allow us to help you achieve your dream of home ownership.
No more complaints for identity theft. We got a monster of all 50 states we can laugh about.
Again, 631-478-2706. United Northern Mortgage Lenders Ltd. NMLS number 7230 is an equal housing lender and a licensed mortgage banker located at 3601 Hempstead Turnpike, Suite 300, Levittown, New York 11756. New York State Department of Financial Services.
This is Paul Oscar, the nation's credit repairman, and I want to help you improve your
Here's what
credit.
I would suggest we
As
do.
the
I think we
CEO
go
of Better
back to
Qualified,
we have
I've helped
really
thousands of
hammered
people over the past 10 years.
the
credit expert
cybercrime
for
and
Fox
identity
Business
theft.
News,
I think
and all
now
the
we should
major
make it more
networks.
real estate
I'm a certified
centric
FICO
for the
pro
last part.
that uses the consumer
So
laws
let's talk
to
about
help
best
delete
practices
negative
for
information
preparing to
off
apply
of
for a
credit
mortgage.
reports. We have a debt elimination program that focuses on the laws surrounding collections, judgments, and charge-offs.
Let's talk about
you
mattress
could be
money.
entitled to up to $1,000 per violation. Call now for your free credit consultation. 888-533-8138. That number again, 888-533-8138. Or visit us on the web.
How bad was it? How much money?
Hi, this is Tom Marinero, the
How much money
president
though
of
was it?
Residential Home Funding, a top East Coast mortgage company. Now is the time to buy a home before interest rates go up. Lock in your low rate
she had a heart
today, or
attack.
turn your current home into an asset by cashing in on its
I want to
equity.
ask you about
Why
credit
rent
card
when
versus
you can
debit
own?
card.
Why not
shortly.
get
We'll
cash
talk
out
about
of your
that
home
briefly.
now?
Yep.
So call me right now at 1-800-636-LEND. And as a bonus, if you call me right now, I will waive all of my lender fees. That's right, zero lender fees saving you thousands of dollars. This offer is for purchasing or refinancing a home. Call me and learn more at 1-800-636-LEND. Residential funding is part of the New York and New Jersey Departments of Banking and Insurance. Our NMLS number is 36152. The number once again is 1-800-636-LEND. That's 1-800-636-LEND.
RETalkRadio.com is your portal for cutting-edge information to give you an advantage in the competitive real estate market. Now, back to Real Estate Talk with Victoria Rivadeneira.
And this is J. Philip Ferranda sitting in for Victoria Rivadeneira on RETalkRadio.com's live stream. Also at Facebook.com/Victoria Riva, here from WOR's iHeartRadio studios. We're talking with Eric Sturkin of Better Qualified and Lior Aldad, our attorney at large, about the destructive consequences of cybercrime, identity theft, how it affects real estate, and it really does. We want to bring it back to the housing component of our mission here, and the basics that people need to understand is once they have sort of locked down their stuff, we should really talk about the basic fundamental underpinnings of getting your credit all together and being ready to borrow that money that most people need to for the largest transaction of their life. So we're talking about starting with pre-approval and moving on. So Eric, talk about that.
Well, again, back to being proactive. You know, when you know you're going to purchase either a home or a car or anything where you need some sort of financing, if you're not monitored, you need to get that credit report. If you're monitored, then you kind of know your score. But what happens if you do choose, or if something happens where you went late, or something pops up that you had a default judgment that you didn't know and somebody served you? A lot of times on the default judgment side, all those default judgments can be opened. They can come off the credit report, right? It doesn't mean you don't owe the money still, but at least if you're going into a purchase and you find a default judgment, it's not going to affect your credit score and your credit report. In the meantime, then once the default judgment is then vacated from the credit report, the attorneys, we have a few, and there's other attorneys out there that do it, but they're going to look to settle that default judgment, either knock it down to zero or come up with a person and negotiate a price. But if you have a default judgment, those are, I'd say to everybody, don't hide from them. You hid from them originally, but if you do have them now and you do want to buy a house, right? It's not the
tackle it.
It's not the end of the world. Come out, you put it in your desk where you don't have it. But you got to take advantage of it. There's many times that I've run into people like, "Ooh, my credit's terrible. I'll never be able to buy a house." And it's really not that. Whether or not it's that bad at the present moment, it might be, but it's not that difficult to fix it, depending on
that's
who you choose to do it with, and who
truly one of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking that their credit is hard and fast like concrete and it'll never change. Credit is like your mood.
Yeah,
and it is fluid. Over months, it can change quite a bit, and with good reason. This country was built, I've jokingly said, on guns, God, and credit. So, if people who had credit issues had to live off the grid forever, there'd be tens of millions of people that couldn't re-enter the consumer world, and that we can't have that for the economy. What are some other things that you help people with when they're getting pre-approved? I mean, surely identity theft is an important thing, but what else do people need to combat when they are looking at their credit needing to be improved?
Yeah, again, it depends on if they know what's on their credit report or once they get the information.
What are some common things?
Common things you have: credit card late. A lot of times you have a late payment that you just forgot to do. Like I used my wife as an example last summer.
I'm sure she appreciates that.
Listen, it's okay. That was my one part of going live on Facebook to say, listen, I'm going to forgive you as long as I can make it part of the business. So, so it ended up working out. In the beginning, I was a little upset because it did drop my score 98 points, which was kind of crazy. Just one late on a credit card, and I have
Too bad there's no caloric value to that, you know.
The crazy part about what ended up happening with the 98, and this goes back to I can talk real quick about the components of credit so you can gauge percentages, but 35% of your credit score is based on your credit history, right? So that was one late, so that's 35% of my score. I start with a 65% low, in school, if I got a 65, I wouldn't be happy. Yeah. It's terrible. So on top of that, there was a balance, right? So 30% of your credit score is based on your utilization, which is how much you owe compared to how much you have available. Mm-hmm. So in this case, there was a $1,300 balance on the Lord & Taylor card that she didn't pay, But what she likes to do, and I smile every time she says she's going to go pay her credit card off. I just do it online. But Lord & Taylor, she likes to go to Lord & Taylor, pay her bill, and shop again, right? So, so when she says she's going to pay her bill, I laugh because the balance, usually just swaps for the day you pay the bill. But in that case, the balance of $1,300, I think I only have a $2,500 or $3,000 limit on a Lord & Taylor. I just signed up when I bought something, but now my balance was above 50%. And that's utilization. That's 30% of my credit score. So once we paid it off and we, squared, we did what we had to do, the score went up not 98 points back, it went up 114 points. So here's a tip: if you're going to get your credit pulled and you're going in for a pre-approval or you're going into a some sort of financing purchase of anything, call your credit card companies and find out when they report, because all credit card companies only report once a month.
Right.
So if you have a balance and you pay off your balance in full because you want to get the most benefit and utilization, right, and you don't want to pay it off to zero, you want to leave a small balance.
Okay.
That shows you can manage debt. As strange as it sounds, leave a $10 balance. This is only if you're going to go for financing, because it's going to help
so much of this is counterintuitive, isn't it?
Crazy, silly, some of the stuff.
Because zero is less than 10.
Yes. Yes.
I studied English, even I know that.
Well, for them, if it was zero, you wouldn't be managing anything because you don't have to worry about it. But $10, you can manage your debt. But anyway, now I lost my train of thought.
I do that because I interrupt. But you want to pay it down. You what day of the month the
yes. Back to the credit card. So if you're going to pull your credit, if you're going for the financing, find out when your credit card companies report. Because if you pay it off and then they already reported, you got to wait 29 days. So find out when they report, pay it before, let them report, and then you get the real credit score.
Aha. All right. So here's another question I had to ask. You mentioned before that it is better to use a credit card to pay bills online than a debit card. Now, assuming that I only had $2,500 in my checking account that I used to make that purchase and a $2,500 credit line on that credit card, why is the credit card a better option for cyber commerce, for example?
Well, if it's $2,500 and it's all illegitimate, not real purchases of you, the money's going to disappear from your account. So now you can't go to an ATM and maybe you need some cash. You can't get the cash.
Right.
You're going to cancel that card. You're still not going to get cash.
That's with a debit card.
That debit card. Credit card, again, that debit card or that credit card, they're going to just charge your card. So if
30 days cushion to
you got 30 days. Absolutely.
Aha.
But again, if it's cash and you need to go to an ATM now because you're breached and you shut everything down, if it's on a debit card and the bank's closed, you're not getting any cash, right? If you use a debit card, if you're credit card heavy, you still have the debit card you should use it as more of a, I wouldn't call it security, but it's your safety blanket to know that's your money.
Okay.
Don't let them take your money. Let them take somebody else's money. Figure it out over the next 30 days. Most of the time you're going to get corrected, and most of the time now they stop it if you listen and put a some sort of alarm or $50 or some sort of text messaging alert. They immediately say, "Is this your purchase?" 1, yes. 2, no. If you hit no, everything gets shut down.
Yes, comes to mind also is that the elaborate way that these scams are set up, it's like honest work is easier. Why? I thought crime was like a shortcut, but this is like a sophisticated tapestry of stuff that is harder than most honest work I know.
Yeah, the crazy part, they're doing it from their, sometimes their bed, sitting there with a computer.
That's nuts.
Or not even from the U.S. Sometimes they're abroad.
Most of the time.
In different countries where they sit down, they're very sophisticated in terms of internet and technology, and they're able to do that. What I have seen is that the credit cards monitor where you spend customarily and where your location is. So, for example, I have an apartment in Florida, and they know that I either spend in New York or in Florida. If I use my credit card in a random place, like in Vegas, for example, they would call me up and say, "There's a charge in Vegas. Is that you?"
Yep, the flags pop. That's
right.
It.
So I think that they try to be as much as they can proactive, but you still have to be yourself alert and do as much as you can.
I've actually had that very thing happen where I went to Vegas and I couldn't use an ATM because I don't live in Vegas.
Right.
Was that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's
both.
Good. Yeah. It depends.
That money you kept it in your pocket.
It depends on your mood. So Leor, we've talked about mattress money on the break. All right. Why wouldn't it just make more sense with all the stuff that's going on just to keep it in a safe in the wall of your house. Why is mattress money not the solution? And by mattress money, we mean cash in your house, locked up in a safe like you're the bank.
Because the IRS will come to visit you, assuming that you did not disclose the funds, or if you did disclose the funds, then it would be very difficult for you to transact business in the real world where people buy and pay and transact business with checks and credit cards. So that's the main reason.
So it's a red flag for suspicion.
Without a doubt. What I want to address with you is the provisions in the contract of sale. Let's bring it back to real estate if we can.
Please.
The provisions of the contract of sale has something called mortgage contingency, which means that if you are buying a house, your transaction is contingent upon you able to secure a loan.
Typically.
And if you are rejected, you can get your money back. That's called mortgage contingency.
Yes.
Now, lately, many contracts, many sellers, many brokers are advising their clients not to agree to the contingency because the seller wants to secure the transaction and for the buyer to assume the risk affiliated with getting a mortgage. So you can call me up as your real estate lawyer and tell me, oh, I'm pre-approved and everything is good. I'm not worried about it. I'm willing to waive my contingency. And my advice to you is the following. That's a huge risk, and you have to have backup money if you cannot get a loan. Otherwise, you would lose your deposit if you get rejected. And the reason being is if something pops up on your credit, if a judgment comes in and you're not aware about it, the bank can deny the loan, and you are at risk of not being able to consummate the transaction.
Boom.
Right.
Whoa. Can you imagine? Can you imagine someone who's an absolute slam dunk for a mortgage? 50% down,
Exactly.
Lots of money on deposit, looks great, but they fall victim to one of these scams. And because they waived the mortgage contingency, because there was competing bids and they wanted to be, at the head of the pack, and this was their dream place, and then one of these catastrophic events occurs, they get denied their loan, they don't have the funds liquid.
And the seller sends you a time of the essence letter saying you have to close or you lose a deposit, and you are definitely in trouble. So
that's stress.
It is stress. And unless you have the backup money, I'm an advocate of definitely putting in the mortgage contingency, even for a short period of time or whatever may be, just as a protective mechanism.
I have never heard that argument in favor of a mortgage contingency before, but it is a compelling argument.
Yeah, got to do it.
You got to do it, right?
Got to do it.
Because we have had transactions.
I've tried to help, and it takes a certain amount of time to do it. It's not, and if a tough and if a seller wants to get out,
Wow. Okay, we've had transactions where there was no mortgage contingency, but we knew they weren't writing a check. We knew a mortgage was involved. They were just living dangerously.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's the danger I was referring to. Yes.
Whoa, and I don't know if the insurance companies sort of have a recklessness factor, but while it is a little bit dancing with the devil to not have a mortgage contingency, whoa, that is something else. Wow.
So if you do that, be monitored.
Be monitored. Yes, monitor your stuff. Monitor your stuff. Any other best practices we should talk about?
One quick that I like to say for
yeah.
Some of the tips we give out. If you do have to co-sign, a lot of us have children or family members where you have to sign because maybe their credit's not established yet or maybe they have bad credit. If you do that, make sure you are the one making the payment and collect from the person that you did the deal with. Because too many times if that person doesn't make the payment, you don't, unless you're, again, if you're monitored, we'll go back to that. But if you're not monitored and the other person isn't making the payment, you're not going to know until probably 30, past 30. You're probably at 60 days, maybe 90 days late, where you'll get something in the mail, so you're late.
Yeah, in the eyes of the credit gods,
they don't.
The cosigner is yeah.
I think school loans. I had a situation where a parent co-signed on a school loan, and the parent didn't bother to follow up, and then saw that, oh my God, my son didn't
Eric,
pay.
how do we reach you?
A couple ways. We have an 800 number, 888-533-8138. Or the easiest one to get more information about today's topic is a simple text message, which we all love. Text WOR. Again, text WOR to 40691. And you'll get a bunch of links back, and a couple good things about monitoring and credit. Everything we do, you'll see it on the text message back. But that's to get more information on us. Thanks, Phil. And
we are on Real Estate Talk Radio at WORAM 710, streaming live at Facebook.com/Victoria Riva, and our live podcast at RETalkRadio.com. Lior, how do we reach you?
Aldadlaw.com, ALDADLAW.com. Best way, has all the information you can.
I am J. Philip Ferranda. The best way to reach me is jphilip.com. I hope everybody has a great day and has learned a lot. We're out.
Thank you all.
Wow, we actually were on time.
That was pretty good for an hour.
Okay, not bad.
Fast, huh?
Not bad.
Good job, buddy.
Good too.
Not bad. And, we ran out of batteries. No, I'm just kidding.
Later.
Okay, later.